Hi, welcome to Just Common Sense. How are you guys doing? Just want to say I've got Jerry on the line tonight. Say hi.
Hello.
Hi, they like to hear you, Jerry. They're applauding. You know, a
Yay.
big audience here tonight. So, hey, everybody out there, all live out there. Yeah, right. All right. Just want to talk about this one's going to be called Casual Talk. We're going to be talking about a couple things, guys. First of all, I do want to bring up some stuff like transgender. I want to talk about that. That's been out there quite a bit lately. So let's talk about example men and transgender men in women's sports. What do you guys think about that? So give me your opinion first. Go to my website, just-markcommonsense.com. Scroll down to the bottom. Please subscribe, please share, and go to the email and give me your thoughts. Now, that being said, I'm going to bring some stuff up. I'm going to say it this way. It's taking rights away from women. You know how the left's always saying we're taking rights away from women? Well, guess what? Transgender males in sports are taking their rights, the women's rights, because they've worked hard for this to get to where they are at, such as basketball. Swimming, we know about. We've talked about that, and many other sports out there. Because let's just face it, no matter what, that person's a male. And if you want to call this person a female, hey, that's up to you. But technically, that is not the case. You can't change the genes. And again, there's a lot more difference with the tone, the muscle mass, and everything else. So let's just be honest here. And it's not fair to women. Jerry?
No, I totally agree with you. And, it's kind of funny how, women were out there screaming, about Donald Trump and, oh, he, doesn't respect women and he doesn't, treat women right and everything like that. And now we've got people that are actually right now doing things that are taking away women's rights, like you said. And yeah, let's look at it. The Title IX sports, was put together because women and men are different. And if we just said, hey, you know what, we're not going to have men's and women's sports. We're just going to have sports. And if you're the best person, then you make the team. And if you're not good enough, you don't make the team. Well, that's going to set women's, sports back, obviously, 100 years, 150 years, something like that. And so, by, saying, hey, you know what, we're just going to let men play women's sports. Basically, the only men that are trying to do that are the men that can't compete as men. So, so they know they're able to compete against women and maybe beat women in sports, but you don't see, a superstar male athlete going out there and trying to play in the women's leagues because they don't need to.
Right. Now, do you know West Virginia is one of them that actually has not, they passed that transgender men can actually compete in women's sports, and there's some other ones out there as well, other states. If you're a woman, you got to consider this, and you really need to think about that, especially for those of you on the left that are talking about transgender and all their rights right now. That is not a right to compete in that sport. Now, I say this, no matter what, if you're a transgender, listen to me, you're a male. There's a reason why you have to go take these hormones. There's a reason why you have to go get fake implants and other surgeries, we'll just say it that way, to try to become a female. But again, regardless, you cannot change your genes. You are a male no matter what. Now, it's up to you if you want to dress that way. That's your decision. And that's fine if that's your choice. But again, don't push it on everybody else. Don't push your beliefs on everybody else. That's the way I want to say this. Your thoughts, Jerry?
Well, on top of that, too, hey, don't push your thoughts and beliefs on everybody else. That's the only way they can get something like that through is by forcing it through because, people will come out and say, well, you know what? If you're born a male, you're a male. Oh, that's hateful. Oh, that's I mean, you don't know how you're hurting people when you say that. Well, basically what they're trying to do is they don't have a real argument.
Right.
So then they have to, try and shame you, into agreeing with what they say, or they try, or some of these places where, like you said, they're
Yeah.
doing legislation and
Yeah.
they're, making it a law where you have to accept it. And, it's kind of funny, conversations I've had with other people, one thing I bring up, and I
Yeah.
didn't make this up, but I find it, very, uh, eye opening, is that if you look at an archaeologist, not one archaeologist has ever gone to an archaeological site and dug up anything other than a male or a female. You look at, they go back, they dig up the pyramids, they dig up the catacombs, they dig up, all these other things. They find these old civilizations that died off 10 million years ago. And, they tell us, oh, we found a new version or variant of human being. Never have they come out, not once, and said, we found a third gender, and then, so, transgender, there's really no such thing. You
Right.
were either born male or you were born female.
Right.
And, I know that there's people out there right now gritting their teeth and they're upset that I said that, but, it's basically the truth.
Well, let's talk about this, Jerry. You just brought up a good point. So how can they tell a male and a female based on just the skeleton? See where I'm going
Well,
with
there
that?
are physical differences. Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely. It's right there. Right there is where it is. Just the size of the skeleton, the way it's, the frame of the skeleton and everything else, that's how you can tell. That's how you can
Absolutely.
tell. Well, let's just say one more thing. Can you actually give birth to a baby and get pregnant if you're a transgender male? Can you?
No, no. As a matter of fact, you can't do it either way, transgender male or female.
Correct.
Because, if you transition from a female to a male,
Rephrase that. Yeah. That's
then you can't get somebody pregnant. And if you transition from a male to a female, you can't get pregnant.
Yep.
And even though a lot of, people will, think it's reprehensible, but I got to tell you one of my, funniest episodes of the cartoon TV show South Park was when one of the teachers, transitioned to a female, and he kept running around after he became a female, which, by the way, we both know can't happen. But, after he supposedly had the surgeries and everything like that, he was running around telling everybody how he couldn't wait to have his period. And, then he went to the doctor because he hadn't had a period and he thought he got pregnant. And finally, the doctor, told him, hey, you can't get pregnant because you're not really a woman. And so, he was upset because basically what happened was, in his opinion, he had basically just been gay, and that was harder for him to accept, that he wasn't really a woman now because, he was out there, wanting to date men and go out and everything like that. And so now he was upset because he realized that even though he had the surgery, was taking the hormones, was doing everything, he's still a guy. And I know South Park can upset some people because of the language and the content. But the thing is, they really don't have a sacred cow, and they lay things bare like that. Mm-hmm. And, and basically a lot of times they tell the truth. And I think that's why people get upset with it sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah. And I agree. So again, I'm going to say this, though. Obviously, there's people out there who are all upset. I do want to bring up something else. If you do see the people that out there dressed up and all, and, trying to be a man, trying to be a woman, wherever the case may be, and they're dressed like that, just don't be friendly with them. Don't go picking on them and everything else. I'll say it that way because nobody needs to bully anybody. I may not agree with
bullying should never take place.
Ever. And where I'm going with this is, you may not agree with everything, and I don't agree with any of that, obviously, because we're just bringing that up. I wish it didn't even exist, but that is totally up to the individual. As long as they're not out there pushing this agenda, they're not out there hurting anybody, and they're not out there going after children. Now, that being said, I want to bring up something. Let's talk about schools. Let's talk about teachers. Let's talk about all that right now. Okay, so obviously there was a thing that I saw with Jim Jordan involved. He was speaking a few days ago about this, and he wanted to show a video. And the video was basically parents in the school talking to the school board about these books, transgender books and everything else. Well, he brought it up, and he's actually in this whole thing with the House, the Senate. They're talking about it. And yet the Democrats said, we don't want the video. We don't want to see the video. We don't want it played. They fought this thing. They fought it hard, saying, we don't want to see this video. Now, why don't they want to see the video? Why don't they want it out there? Because they don't mind having, teachers teaching the wrong thing. Why are teachers doing the right thing and teaching math, English, history, and many other things? Why not that? Why teach this stuff? They can teach against bullying. I agree with that. Why you shouldn't bully? That's another thing I wanted to bring up. Now, one last thing, and now I'm going to bring this up too, then Jerry will have a minute to talk. Guess what? Here in North Carolina, our ridiculous governor, as I'm going to say it, because I think he's only got a little bit of time and he's out anyway, thank God. But that being said, that he himself told everybody, we're going to raise teachers' pay today. But yet they're not going to remove any books or anything else like that out of these schools. Now, we're going to raise the pay of teachers. Now, I'm going to say this. I believe in getting a qualified teacher who's doing a good job. I spoke to a teacher, and I'm going to bring this up a little bit, but I spoke to a teacher a while back ago, a math teacher, middle grade math. And we were talking about numbers and things like that. And this individual could not calculate, simple addition. She couldn't even get these numbers right. Something so simple. That's pretty scary. That's why we need to get qualified teachers who do a good job. I'm good with that. I'm good with them getting a pay raise as long as they're teaching right and they're not teaching all this trash out there. Bullying, we'll fix that. Say not to bully and do the right things. Let's go back to the basics. That's what we need to do. Go back to the basics when we were kids, all the way when our parents were kids. Thoughts, Jerry?
Well, first off, when you mention the bullying, in reality right now, the vast majority of bullying is happening from the left against the right. Okay. Sure. When, Republicans hold, like if you saw the other night, I think it was Ben Shapiro was trying to hold an event.
Yep.
And they were throwing stuff through the windows.
Yep.
They were throwing eggs at the people. They were, you don't think that's bullying? When Donald Trump was running for president, when he would have his rallies, people would stand outside and they would harass the people going to the rallies. And, it's just so, right. It's so funny how, the left says, oh, we're being bullies when, we don't accept something that they like. Right. But in reality, they're the ones that physically do the bullying. Now, right. You also mentioned, with teachers, it's kind of funny, too, because teachers bully children in the classroom. Oh, yep. You don't believe in transgenderism? Well, your parents are wrong. And you're wrong as a person. And you need to really. And so they use their position as a teacher to bully a child for not believing the same thing that they believe. So right. It's just kind of weird. And then you also brought up that teachers, hey, they should teach, math and reading and history and everything like that. I agree. But you know what? If they taught one thing other than the things you mentioned, yep. It might take some of this away, and that's science. The left is always saying, follow the science. Follow the science. Oh, it's global warming. Follow the science. Really? Well, if global warming's happening, then how come, coastal communities and beaches still exist? Follow the science, vaccinations. Oh, okay. It's like, and so the thing is, they're always saying follow the science, but on something this simple, if you're born a male, you can't not be a male. You can cut parts off. You can take hormones. You can dress up a certain way. That doesn't make you a female. Right. It just makes you a male that dresses differently and mutilated your body. If you're born a female, you can't sew parts on and become a male. So, right. It's just so, I just, I always laughed when they always said follow the science because it always sounded silly. But now I've got to turn around and use their own phrase back
Yeah.
and say, hey, follow the science.
Women's rights.
Well, see,
like
and that it comes back to that, and it's kind of funny
Yeah.
because I mean, as you know, I travel a lot, and
Yeah.
so this week I'm in Connecticut, and Connecticut was one of the places that got this all started because
Yep.
they had that boy that was running in the girls' track at the state level and wound up winning the state championship.
Right.
And it's like, so I mean, that was kind of one of the first ones that made the news. And, it's kind of funny because this is a liberal state. And, they've got, they've had very few Republican governors in the past, a couple of decades. They've, had very few Republican senators and House members. And so it's just kind of funny. You're up here and it's like, so here's this liberal state that, the liberals like to say, follow the science, but they refuse to follow the science. The science said, if you're a boy, you're a boy. Or if you're a boy, the average, and I'll use that term average. So the average boy is physically stronger than the average woman. And I use the word average because there's always somebody who's going to say, well, I know this girl that. Well, no, sure. I understand that. We all know, there are some girls that are stronger. I mean, when I was in elementary and middle school, and, I mean, I won't use her name because I don't know how she feels about all this, but she was actually one of the top swimmers in the state of Florida. And she beat the boys on a regular basis, and she was swimming at a level above her own grade level. And so it was kind of funny. She was just far better than most people.
Yeah.
But that's why everybody knew who she was, because she wasn't the average girl. The average girl can't swim as fast as the average male, if they're both equally talented. The average girl can't lift the same amount of weight.
Right.
And it's like, but there's things that men can't do that women can. So, I mean, what people need to do is say, oh, okay, if you're a guy, then there's certain things you're going to be better at. If you're a girl, there's going to be certain things you're better at. So, just follow the science.
Yep. And, you brought something up, and I mentioned this a while back ago. Let's just say basketball. We'll use that for example. All of a sudden, you got a transgender playing against women in basketball because it's women's basketball. Guess what? That transgender all of a sudden goes like this and dunks the basket, ball in the basket, or pushes the woman. I mean, that's strength. Next thing, you got a woman that's actually hurt. Just another thought there, guys. All right.
Well, and that's the funny thing that you mentioned that. I mean, in basketball, I remember a few years back. Yeah. I don't even remember. It's been a long time, but I don't even remember if it was a WNBA game or a women's college game or something like that. But it was a high level of competition in the women's sports.
Yeah.
Whether it was college or pro, but a woman dunked the basketball. Dude, it was sports news for days that a woman had dunked a basketball in a basketball game, And I was like, okay, the fact that it was news that a woman dunked a basketball should tell you an awful lot about the ability levels, between men and between women. And it's like, I mean, I used to not only attend, but I used to sometimes do the radio broadcasts of high school basketball games when I was living in Florida.
Right.
And I mean, just average guys. Now, I'm not a guy that can dunk a basketball. I'm not too short, but I'm not too tall. But there were kids that were my height that, could dunk a basketball. And, I mean, you don't look at them and go, wow, that guy's really tall. Women, not a chance. Yeah. Even women my height, even women taller than me couldn't, dunk a basketball. And it's like, because there's physical differences in us. And so, with these people that are doing the transgender thing, I've said this before, and I still believe it, that they don't necessarily deserve to be bullied. They don't need to be scorned. They don't need to be made fun of or anything like that. What they do need is they need help. They need somebody to explain to them the truth. And, and then if they still want to pretend to be a woman or pretend to be a man, then that's fine. That's up to them. But, somebody needs to tell them the truth and stop putting on, oh, but if you have transgender surgery, if you have, well, first off, like I've said before, my opinion is there's no such thing as transgender.
Right.
If you have an operation to mutilate your body, you've had an operation to mutilate your body. That doesn't make you the other gender. Yep. So,
all right. So I want to talk about Drew Barrymore, by the way. I don't know if you guys saw her on her show the other day. She was actually talking to someone who's We're going to use transgender for the word tonight because obviously
Sure.
Jerry doesn't believe in it. I don't believe in it either, but we're just going to use this word. Now, I don't know if you knew about this, Jerry, but she was on her show, had a transgender on there. Next thing, she's on her knees talking to this transgender on a seat and just going on. And then she was just sitting there with tears coming out of her eyes. And I mean, literally on her knees talking to this transgender. And then they finally they were hugging.
That, but my opinion on somebody like that is she's mentally unstable as well. And
right.
And the thing is, when I say that, I'm not saying it in a mean or hateful way, but I've seen some of her activist cry outs, we've got to accept it. No, we really don't have to accept that, whether it's transgender. I mean,
right.
And you brought up something earlier and we kind of glossed over it.
Yep.
That they are, trying to groom the younger crowd to accept this and say, it's okay. And, now they've got these, people going in and doing the drag queen story hours and everything like that. And then we've got these cities and towns and states that are talking about allowing children under the age of 12 or 10 or 9 to start taking puberty blockers and, to start making the decision that they're going to be transgender when they're not even old enough to go out and buy a pack of cigarettes. And say, we don't think that you have the mental capacity to make the proper decision on buying cigarettes.
Yeah.
So, and plus cigarettes could stunt your growth. Cigarettes could, infringe on your physical well-being. So we're not going to let you buy cigarettes, but we're going to let you take massive doses of puberty blockers to change who you are before you even develop.
Yeah.
And how crazy is that?
Well, I mean, their brain doesn't. I mean, a child's brain doesn't even develop until they're 20, I think, or something like that. I forget.
That's the thing. Now they're finding that it's in the 20s when your brain is fully developed, and it's like so. In reality, now I want to qualify this statement before I make it so somebody doesn't freak out. In reality, we should start rethinking the things we allow people to do at 18. Yeah. Okay, so voting at 18, we've got places now that are starting to let people vote at 16. But now we're finding out their brain's not fully formed until they're 18.
Where's this?
In their 20s.
Yeah. Do you know where that is? I'm just sorry. Where are they voting?
Oh, gosh. I want to say New York was one of them. I just heard about it.
This is new. Okay.
Oh, yeah. No, there's some states now that are talking about allowing voting in municipal, not federal elections, but in, state and local elections.
Wow.
They're talking about allowing them to vote at 16 years old.
It's ridiculous.
And so, here's people that they're not even taxpayers yet. Okay. They're not even of a tax-paying age because a lot of people that vote aren't taxpayers either. But,
right.
But here we are. We have certain legal restrictions. We don't when we were younger, if you remember, 16 was the age to buy cigarettes. So, then it went to 18.
Yeah.
When I was younger, 18 was the legal age to buy alcohol. Now it's 21. To buy a long gun firearm, 18. To buy a handgun is 21. So, get a driver's license. Most states are 16, some are 17. But, so we've got all these things that don't even affect your actual development, driving, buying a firearm, signing a legal contract. But now we're talking about allowing people to choose to be transgender before they're even in middle school. Think about that.
Yeah, and the parents who are parenting their children are trying to get this stopped in schools, but yet the school board wants to take over, which we talked about this a minute ago, and say, well, we have the right. You have zero rights at all. Zero on this. You have the right to teach, obviously, English, math, history, because the parents pay you to do this. And that's what they forget. They are trying to take control of our children. I'm just saying this is very, very bad. And those parents that are parenting or in the school boards yelling about this, why the people that are not parenting are letting their kids go crazy, obviously, on these media sites and everything else and not monitoring what they do. They're trying to be friends and not parents. And then their children grow up, obviously, with problems, such as
Could you imagine if
and
a
all.
teacher walked in the classroom right now and started programming the children in their classroom about, say, hunting.
Yeah.
Hey, let me tell you the best way to kill a deer,
Oh,
and
yeah.
it's like, and let me tell you the best weapon to kill a deer with, and let me tell you how to cut that deer into pieces, and
Yeah.
what each piece is and how you cook it and everything like that. I mean, oh my gosh, Brian, the outcry and the
Yeah.
outrage would be unbelievable. And it's like, and but in the same breath, what we're talking about is they're in there talking to these children about, hey, by the way, you can be anything you want to be. You can go
Yeah.
ahead and you can change your body. And no, you can't. Sewing horns on you does not make you a goat. Sewing whiskers on does not make you a cat. Cutting pieces off your body doesn't make you a female. Sewing pieces onto your body doesn't make you a male. And it's like, but they're trying to train these children at younger and younger ages,
Right.
that it's okay. And I believe the proper term is grooming. And here's the crazy thing: a lot of the from the alphabet community, the LGBTQZXY and 9, whatever, you know, don't they don't believe that grooming is proper, and so even in their own community, there's a lot of people that don't believe that they should be grooming children. But I mean, but grooming children is terrible, especially if they're not yours. But if they're your own children and you're trying to help them mutilate their body before it's even formed, that's insane.
Yeah. Absolutely.
I mean, they've got little girls that haven't even developed yet that are getting mastectomies.
I know.
Okay.
I've heard of it.
And it's like,
Sick.
and it's absolutely sick. And it's like, and when they do a mastectomy, it's not like they just take out a little bit of
Yeah.
tissue. They literally go in and remove,
Yeah.
like the glands that are going to grow into the milk ducts, so that later on, if they were to have children, they could breastfeed their child, and they're going and they're removing parts from these children. That's going to change their chemical balances. That's going to change their, their makeup, their physical makeup.
Yeah.
It's also going to change how they develop. And, and the, my wife and I were talking about this not too
Yeah.
long ago. The suicide rate among these people
Yes.
is so much higher than the rest of society because they're, basically what they're doing is they're crying out that they need help when they say, hey, I
Yeah.
want to do this or I want to do that. And then so many of them that actually go forward and do it, then regret it.
Oh, yeah.
And, I mean, and so it's terrible.
And I spoke to somebody who's a therapist, and this individual actually goes into schools, high schools, middle school, and they're having a lot of problems with kids right now. And it's never been like this, I was told. This individual said, we have never seen anything like this. It's just getting tougher every year, especially with what's going on. And they cannot get parents involved with these kids that are having these problems because the parents just don't want to be involved that way. They don't want to be parents. They just want to be friends, but they don't want to be there for their kids. That's another thing. Look, I want to talk about something else too, identifying. I was going to bring that up on a show. Look, I was in a restaurant recently. Jerry, I sent you a picture of the person. I did take the
I remember
picture.
this. Yep.
Yes, and we need to break this down. This is how mentally imbalanced things are getting out there. I mean, so example, I know an individual, a couple individuals, more than one, by the way, who, for example, this individual, let's just say this individual's kid went to school, okay? First day in class. What does the teacher say? Instead of saying, hi, I'm such and such, your name is? No, it's, hi, I'm such and such. What do you identify as? What do you mean, what I identify as? I'm Brian. What is there to identify? I'm a guy. I'm a dude. Well, guess what? In that class, you had 3 people say, identify as a cat. This is not a joke. Look it up. Person, they wear ears in school. Some wear a tail. They have certain shoes. And they allow this in school, some of these schools. They even have a leash with a necklace. And there are other kids walking them around. Now, this is not a joke. This is how mental these people are. They want cat boxes in class or in the school, in the bathrooms. That's not a joke. That is true. You may be laughing at me right now. It's not a conspiracy theory. Look it up. Do your research. It's out there. And I was shocked. And there's people identify as dogs and all kinds of other stuff.
Well, see, and you just brought up something else. It's like,
Yeah.
okay, so right now we've got these kids. Oh, I identify as a cat, and I can't remember who told me this, but when you and I had
Yeah.
talked about one time about the cat boxes in the bathrooms, and how some schools are starting to actually do it. And I was talking to somebody else probably about 2 or 3, maybe 4 weeks ago. And you and I had just talked about this. And I said, yeah, Brian and I were talking about this. And they said, oh, no, that they were reading about because they don't want to stigmatize people. So, like with your cat, you don't necessarily always have to put your cat's cat box in the bathroom. Some of these schools are putting it in the classroom. And the children are going
Wow.
over and using the cat box in the classroom
That's
while
new.
class is in session.
Wow.
And that blew my mind when I heard that. And I was just sitting here thinking, okay, my kids are out of school now, so I feel fortunate.
Yeah.
I would have been beside myself if I found out that my kids were sitting in class watching another kid poop in a cat box or pee in a cat box, then stick their hands in it and bury it like a cat. Okay. And it's like, so, I mean, these are the very same people that mandated that children must wear a mask during COVID for health and hygiene reasons. And they must have these little plastic bubbles built around their desks during COVID, to prevent them from being exposed. But then they're okay with another kid pooping in the classroom
Yeah.
and then sticking their hand in the cat box to bury it and then going over and picking up a pencil that your kid may pick up later. Holy cow, Brian.
I'm sure they got walls or something up, I would imagine. You wouldn't do that, but they got to have some screen or something there, I would imagine. But still, regardless, it's wrong. Now, I am not cleaning up that cat box.
Well, see, that's the other thing. Cats don't clean their own cat box, so who's going to?
Teachers.
Or maybe a student gets assigned to it. Hey, Billy, it's your day to clean the cat box. Here's the scooper. And now a kid that isn't mentally ill and doesn't identify as a cat
Yep.
is over there having to scoop out the cat box, and that, I don't know. I mean, it's wrong on so many levels. I just can't even, I won't say I can't begin because I could begin, but there's just no way I could complete.
Hold on. I'm going to identify as a dog at that point because dogs and cats don't get along, so I'm not going to go doing anything to help that cat to clean that box.
There you go.
No, but all kidding aside, it's serious stuff, and it really is going on out there. Now, that being said, the reason why I sent this picture over, I did take a picture of this individual, which works in a restaurant, handling cash and stuff like that, not handling food and stuff like that. But I couldn't even see this person's eyes because her eyelashes were no joke, bottom and top, were about that long. I don't even know how she could see. Then she had the whole ears, the hat, the pink hair, everything else going on to be this cat. I guess she was a pink cat. Wasn't it pink hair? Yeah, it was pink hair. Dressed as a cat, leash and everything else, and shoes and all it matched. She identifies as a cat. Well, right there has me a little concerned. She's not serving food, but does she have her hands in food? Am I going to get that eyelashes in my food? What? I don't know. I'm just saying. Anything's possible.
Or does she walk around and lick her hands and then use her hands that she just licked to brush her hair like a cat would do and then go handle food?
After she just cleaned her cat box in the bathroom.
Yeah.
Gross.
Or does she walk around in the kitchen or behind the restaurant on all fours, with her hands on the ground and then go handle your money, your food, your drink, your napkins, because even if she's not handling food, she's probably like putting napkins in the napkin holders and, stuff like that. And it's like, at what point does it stop? I mean, we're sitting here, with Anthony Fauci saying, follow the science that, with COVID, you have to wear a mask, to, not spread the germs and everything like that. But, now, so let's think if there were another pandemic, okay, in the new pandemic, are we going to make cats wear masks?
Hey,
because, well, I identify as a cat, so I don't have to wear a mask. So I can walk around and I can stick my hand in a clay filled box full of poop and pee.
All right.
And it's like, and I don't have to wear a mask, you know.
So that being said, one last thing I want to say about this, and why is she talking to me? How can she speak if she identifies as a cat? Should she be purring and meowing? I mean, how can you speak? You're not human.
Well,
you're identifying. Am I correct?
And here's the funny thing.
Just
You're
a
right
thought.
about that, but if you saw her do something you didn't like, okay,
Yeah.
how would they respond if you had a spray bottle in your hand and sprayed her with water?
All right, that
hey, you
was
gave
funny.
me the wrong change. I'm going to spray you with a spray bottle.
That
you know,
was funny.
I mean, you'd be the hateful, bully and everything. But that's what you do with cats. Your cat's doing something in the house. You don't like what your cat's doing. Spray them with water, or you take a can with a couple of pebbles in it and you shake the can and make a loud noise and scare them. Yeah. But could you imagine if we walked in that restaurant and did that to her? We'd probably be arrested.
I was just spraying a cat.
Exactly.
What are you taking? Why am I in trouble? Oh, animal abuse.
Exactly.
Animal abuse. PETA's going to be involved.
Oh yeah.
Oh man.
But the whole thing is this identifying thing, like you said, that actually is really tied to this whole topic of transgender, because that's one of the early steps in this whole transgender thing is, well, I may have been born with the chromosomes that make me a female, but I don't feel like a female. I identify as a male. Hey, that's fine. You can identify yourself as a male if you're a female, but that doesn't mean that the rest of the world has to play along with the charade. And, and that's the thing, is like they're forcing us to play along with the charade. And, this woman that I worked with years ago, last week I was traveling with, a guy that I've worked with for many years, and he's getting ready to retire, and I'm taking over some of his territory. So we were traveling together, and, conversation went back to some of the people we've worked with over the years. And he was telling me that one of the women that, we have worked with who, she's in a management position with one of the automobile manufacturers, and he got an email from her, and she's got her pronouns in her email now. This is a woman who's in her late 50s, maybe 60, and she's now jumping onto this bandwagon of, oh, let me put my pronouns in my email. Let me tell you something. It's like, if you have to tell somebody your pronouns, then, there's something wrong. That there is no doubt when people meet me that I am a male. Okay. I understand that some people might be a little more effeminate, or some people might be more masculine, females that are masculine, but there is no doubt in my mind that I'm a male. And Brian, you've met my wife. There's no doubt that she's a female. Same thing, there's no doubt if people meet you that you're a male, and, your wife, there's no doubt that she's a female. So why do we need special pronouns? Why do we, it's like, hey, the pronouns exist already. And it's like, but what's crazy is, since going back to what you were saying earlier, since the teachers are getting involved in this stuff, whatever's taught in school later becomes education.
Right.
So, now, 20 years from now, the normal pronouns that we have used for, well over 100 years, or 150, maybe 200 years,
right,
won't even exist anymore. There'll be 5,742 new pronouns. And because it seems like somebody's making up a new one all the time.
Yep.
And, and it's like, but in reality, the whole point of the pronouns in our language in English is to make it simple to identify people in a sentence, or in a paragraph, or, in the written word or in the spoken word. And all they're doing now is they're making it more difficult.
Yeah, that's true. All right, guys. Well, I think we're going to end it here. We were going to talk about other things, but that went on, and it was probably good to get all this out of the way. Sorry for the graphic details about the cat boxes. Jerry apparently scoops a lot for his real cats, by the way.
Not we got two cats.
Yeah.
Well, that's why we bought the automatic cat box. Maybe that's what these classrooms need, is this giant automatic cat box.
Yeah, we actually have an automatic cat box, but then We got it out there on one of the play. I forget where we got it, but it looks like you put the cat box in it's a square box, and it's got a cushion on it. It's got a little hole in the side, so it looks like furniture. You can't even tell. I would change it once a week because that's all it needs, and don't even see the stuff. It's really easy. So, but now when I change my cat box, I don't think I'm ever going to look at it the same after tonight's conversation with Jerry.
Most of the schools out there actually have a cat box. It's just filled with water and has a handle on the side that allows you to flush it.
By the way, we're going to bring this up real quick. My parents, years ago, there's a way now you can train cats to go on toilets. Well, it's out there. It was
my daughter has done that with her cats.
There you go. And what it was a plastic thing that goes over the toilet, and you put cat litter in it until the cat starts getting used to doing this. And that's what happened. Well, that being said, they thought they had the cat all trained. And all of a sudden we hear splash, and the cat screaming and hollering, fell in the toilet, never used it again. So it did not work for that cat. I thought I'd bring it up. I thought it was hilarious. So, how'd your daughter do this?
So now we're teaching cats to use the toilet, but we're teaching humans to use a cat box. How ironic is that?
I was just going there. I was just getting ready to say that.
I mean, talk about the irony.
Well, cats do rule.
Yeah.
Do you think you own the cat, or you think the cat owns you? If you're a true cat owner, you're not the owner because the cat owns us. Remember that. They own us.
Absolutely. I would agree with that.
Yeah, any true cat owner will agree with that. I know. My cat actually tries I call my cat, I should name him Velcro because Jerry knows this cat. I mean, literally greets me at the door. I think he's identifying as a dog. Greets me at the door, sits on my lap. No matter where I go, he follows me around. And he was a feral cat. He just realized how happy he is and how life is now being in a house. So, all right. Anything else, Jerry, before we end this?
No, I mean, I would like to say, enough silliness for one night, but unfortunately, even though we're keeping a light tone to this, it is really quite disturbing sometimes, and it's quite serious. And, if somebody wants to make a decision once they're an adult, that's fine.
Right.
But, this whole thing about, not only allowing children to make decisions before they're really able to make a wise decision, but, to promote those decisions as well, because you even have some parents that are, hey, I noticed that you like the color pink, so maybe you're not really a boy, or, hey, I notice you're a tomboy, so, maybe you should, not really be a girl. You should change. And they're influencing these children at a very young age. And I've known girls that were tomboys that, grew up to be, just regular, married to a guy, had kids, stuff like that. And I've known guys that might have been a little bit on the effeminate side that, grew up to have families and, but if we program them to think that, they should not be happy with who they are and what they are, then I think that's a dangerous road to go down. So I know we've made a little bit light of it in certain areas and, but it is really, kind of a disturbing and dangerous road to go down.
It is. Absolutely it is. And parents need to wake up. There are a lot of parents, obviously, like I've talked about, are going against the school board. But however, Jared, I hear you crackling stuff back there. What are you doing? Digging in the cat box?
No. No. I just, one of the things is the other night we had a big snowstorm. And so I went to the grocery store and got some snacks for my hotel in case we got snowed in. Unfortunately, we did not. But I had a bag of
cat treats,
lifesavers.
He's eating cat treats, guys. He's starting to change.
If these are cat treats, I'll eat them all day long.
He is starting to change. Hey, by the way, for those of you, let's talk about one last thing. For those of you, if they try to come get your gas stove, put a sign on it on your gas stove that says, "I identify as an electric stove now."
Oh, exactly.
There you go.
Yeah.
Throw it back at them. All right, guys, enough being said. So, guys, want to definitely get on here. We're going to be talking about probably all the failures of Joe Biden next. Obviously, we'll be doing that. There's a lot to talk about, a lot in the news. I just wanted to get on this subject because on the other stuff, I could go on that for days and hours and never get off this camera because of the mess we're in right now with China, Russia, North Korea, and many other places out there, Iran and everybody else. Look, they're all taking sides right now. We know what happened. We know we had a drone that was shot down recently, or not shot down. Let me rephrase that. They dropped gas on it, fuel on it twice, not once, twice. And they ended up bumping it out of the sky, my understanding. That's how they did it. Over international waters, by the way.
And now Russian ships are actually looking for it and trying to retrieve it.
Exactly. Why aren't we doing anything to get out there and get our stuff back and take care of this? And, of course, Biden just lets that go. So, like, it's no big deal, and it just shows the weakness, and that's what our enemies are seeing. They are seeing the weakness of what's going on.
It's funny. Yep. That's exactly the part of the problem.
Yep.
We're over here worried about pronouns and transgender and things like that. And all these countries that we're caving into, people, we should be nicer to Iran and we should do this for Iran. You know what? If you believe in transgenderism, okay, you know what they do if you're transgender in Iran? They kill you.
They take your head off.
The state religion. And it's like, now I won't even mention the country, but I when I was in the military, some of the countries that I visited and lived in, they will kill you just for being gay.
Yes.
Let alone, being something crazy like transgender. So, we're sitting here, we're speaking out of both sides of our mouth.
Right.
We're saying, we need to accept people for this. And we need to accept people for that. And, however, the countries that they're telling us that we should work with and be more tolerant of are not tolerant.
And look at women's rights.
Again, that lends to our hypocrisy. Oh my gosh, when we don't even go there.
Let's talk. Well, no, hold on. Yeah. We're on this transgender thing night and all that stuff. Let's talk about that. You want to support those countries. Not saying the people are all bad. I'm not going there. It's always about the government. But let's just talk about this. I mean, they may have their religion and all, and not all of them, but there's a big majority of them, like the Taliban and all that. They basically look at women like they're just slaves. That's it. They don't treat them right. And that happens. They make them where you can only see their eyes. Literally. Let's talk about human rights. Let's talk about women's rights. Let's talk about all that, right? This is a problem.
Brian, if you remember a few years back in China,
supporting them,
they were only allowed to have one child per family. So, because they were trying population control because they were saying, hey, we have too many people. We can't support all these people. So what we're going to do is we're going to make a law that you can only have, one child per couple. So,
all right, I remember that.
So then what would happen is, females, when they get married, it's traditional that, the groom's family provide a dowry and pay for the wedding and everything like that. And also it wasn't popular for women to go into the workplace. So a male child was more valuable in that society. Right. So what they would do is when people would have a female child, oftentimes they would kill it because they were only allowed to have one child.
Wow.
So they always wanted to have a male. So they would have a female child. They would kill their female child, because they didn't want the government to know that they had a female child. So they would kill their female child and try and have another one. If they had another female, they'd kill that. And it's like, so, with a couple billion people in China, and that went on for decades, how many hundreds of thousands, possibly millions of female children were exterminated simply for the crime of being female, because, that society. And the reason that I bring that up is because like you were just saying too, we're supporting these countries that do stuff like that. And it's like, but then in our country, we're, tolerance. But then we support all these countries that have zero tolerance.
Absolutely. And that's a problem. It's a huge problem we're seeing. And that's why we're known as the weak country. And one last thing I do want to say. I'm not a Putin fan. No, I'm not. I'm also not for Ukraine anymore as far as giving them money. Weapons and helping them in that area, I do believe in some of that. But again, Financially, we can't keep giving him money. There's no reason to. But
No.
I do want to bring up something. And, if there was a speech that Putin actually had a bunch of world leaders in there in a packed room, and he was talking about America. He was talking about the woke America, what's going on with the transgender and all this stuff. He's bringing this up to the world leaders, showing them how weak we are because that's all we're talking about, right? Well, guess what? The rest of the world's looking at us and laughing because of what's sitting in the White House right now and the whole group up there. And what's going on with these governors in this state, including ours and other states right now. But
not just in the White House, but look at who he made his Surgeon General.
I know.
Okay.
Oh,
I don't even remember what his name actually is, but he goes by Rachel Levine now. Yeah. Walks around in a Navy uniform. Okay.
Yeah.
I got to tell you something. From the pictures I've seen, wasn't an attractive man to begin with, and is definitely not an attractive woman. And it's like, but not even really a woman. I don't even know if he's had the surgery. But then there was him, and then there was that guy that was stealing the luggage that was like in charge of our nuclear program, the one that wore all the red lipstick and the dress, and those were people in cabinet posts. They were literally representing us on the world stage when our country would have them meet with people from foreign governments. Yeah. And it's like, and so that goes straight into now these foreign governments like, wow, when you're in a government, you put your best and your brightest forward. That's the best America has to offer.
Yes.
And that's so they don't respect us.
Right. And the reason why they got there, let's just be honest, is not because of their abilities. They're not qualified to handle the job. They were never qualified. It's because of gender. It's because of color. It's because of all that
sexual orientation,
all that stuff. And it really is. That's why they just put them in there for that, not the qualified people. Like I've said before, I don't care who our president is. If our president's a male, a female, black, white, whatever the case may be, I could care less as long as you're doing a good job. And that's in any business anywhere. That's it. Because I really don't like looking at it and saying you're black, you're white, and all this. I've said it before. I've got friends who are, I hate using the word black and white because if I were white, I'd look like this pure white cloth I have in front of me, and that would be scary. And then obviously, the same thing goes for black, Asians, everybody else. So, guys, I just want to wrap this up and say thanks for listening tonight. Definitely go to my website, just-markcommonsense.com. Scroll down to the bottom. Subscribe into my YouTube video. Subscribe into my podcast. Love to hear from you guys. Also, send me an email. Give me your thoughts, opinion, and start following me. Love to get more people following me out there. I've got quite a few on my podcast now. That being said, definitely, we're going to be talking about this a little further down the road. I got friends right now who are running for different things here in the state of North Carolina, and I'm going to be running here soon for some stuff. But we'll see. I will talk about it. I've talked about running as U.S. Senate. We've talked about that, and still thinking about that. But again, we'll talk about that later. Jerry, anything else? We're going to end this.
Nope. I think we covered quite a bit, and I'll leave one last phrase out there, something that I'm repeating from earlier on, but just, when it comes to this topic, let's remember to follow the science.
Yep. And one last thing, our conversation tonight, guys, remember we're all human no matter what. And again, don't bully anybody and just don't get out there and hurt anybody because of the way they think. Now, as far as our beliefs and what's going on in these schools and everything, that's what we're bringing up. But I also want to look at the other side of things, saying, be nice to everybody out there regardless. Maybe you don't agree with everything, and that's the way all of us are. We're not going to agree on everything. Jerry and I don't even agree on everything. We've had debates. We've had debates on the show here. We've had debates, many times in person. So again, but that's what being human is about. So guys, just thank you for everything. I do want to thank our law enforcement for everything you do. I also want to thank our first responders for everything you do. Also want to thank our farmers for everything you do, our truck drivers, obviously, for everything you guys do. Anybody else I missed, Jerry?
Not that I can think of.
Always ask. And for all the people who are actually out there working, because I'm seeing some videos out there, people, adults out there acting stupid on certain social media sites, acting like children who are probably living in their basement, and they're getting money by just doing stupid stuff. So because you get paid on some of these social media sites by getting advertisements and different things. That's not what I'm in it for. I'm in it just to help the American people and try to move on and see what we can do to help this country and, go from there. Guys, again, thanks for everything. Thanks for listening. God bless you. God bless America, and have a great night. Take care.